Let's jump right in. Now, Foldy, what are we looking at here? Because this is a pattern, and now they're all writing on their bullets, too. You know, Luigi Mangione, a hero of the Democrat Party, they all want their daughters to date him, and their sons, too. And Luigi Mangione, he wrote messages on his bullets, and then he assassinated the CO on the sidewalk. And then, of course, we're looking at all these said they're writing messages on their bullets.
Well, okay, so the killer wrote messages that were anti-ICE, shot at ICE with the intent to kill ICE, was inspired by the murderer of Charlie Kirk. Mm-hmm. I think CNN would say the motive is unclear.
I think you're right.
I mean, what we're looking at could hardly be more obvious. It is, and Caroline Leavitt pointed this out, I mean, this is inspired by the media. I don't fault the media for the murder itself. I fault the murderer for that. But it's so undeniable, and I don't know how many more either ICE agents, Border Patrol agents, legal immigrants, American citizens need to be murdered before Democrats take some amount of responsibility for realizing that if you're calling everything fascist, you're going to whip your mentally ill supporters up into a frenzy. The thing that at this point I just simply don't understand is, given that most of these radical anti-American psychopaths, murderers, hate America and the West, I don't know why the left calling them Nazis makes that much sense, because I just think that if you look at a group that is the most aligned with that now, it's radical Islamic jihadists who were collaborators with the Nazis in the 1930s and 1940s into World War II. That's what we're looking at, though, Chris. It is left-wing political violence, and it needs to stop. Trump earlier today said he wants to bring back the death penalty in D.C. Clearly, he's watching our show. I hope he puts them on Venezuelan gunboats and bombs the crap out of all of these killers. Pam Bondi said she wants to do a lot more executions across the country. Mm-hmm. I say, burn, baby, burn.
I think these are Venezuelan drug boats.
Drug boats, gunboats, whatever you want, whatever you want.
I've got to say, Alex, what are we seeing here in the United States? And again, there is this pattern now with assassins from Luigi Mangione, the hero of the Democrat Party, assassinating a CO on the sidewalk in New York, writing messages on his bullets, and now
and then Tyler Robinson,
that's
Charlie
right.
Kirk, that's right. And so some of them are helping the law enforcement with their investigations, making it a little bit easier to find out a motive. Although I think Foldy might be right, CNN won't go that far. They have to wait till it's all the way in legal documents, not spelled out for them. But the other thing I thought was interesting was we already know that he had Googled, I think, or downloaded a document with multiple ICE facilities listed. So it makes you kind of wonder, was this supposed to go in a series in the area of Dallas, or was this just a single targeted place? I guess we'll have to wait and learn more. I know a DHS official has said that agents are facing a more than 1,000% increase in threats, which is just extremely dangerous. And
assaults, 1,000%. Yeah.
For me, the lawyer in me, and you brought up, I think you mentioned CNN, talking about the app, the tracking of this, and talking about how you can follow these ICE agents. I mean, you wonder, could an ICE agent bring any sort of lawsuit against media or anyone for being reckless and putting out their personal information? I guess if it's tracking them in public, I don't see a legal issue. But if we're getting into doxing, is that what's happening? Then yeah, there needs to be some sort of law enforcement.
Alex, you're making me feel bad for these killers, because they're doing everything they possibly can to say, I am a left-wing political terrorist. They're putting it out in manifestos. They're carving it on bullets. And yet CNN is still too stupid to say, oh, this is a left-wing domestic terrorist. I don't know what more these killers need to do to make their message clear, and it still will be covered up.
Well, they're an appendage on the body politic of the Democrat Party at this point, the CNN and the rest of the media, most of the media. The White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, is wonderful, directly called out the leftist media today for irresponsibly, imagine that, giving free publicity to an app, which we were just talking about, that dangerously shares the specific locations in real time of ICE agents, specifically one that the leftist lunatic shooter used in this case, that app, to target the ICE federal law enforcement, and the Democrat Party is all in on this. The liberal media, this is Caroline Leavitt, the liberal media is complicit in the increased threats and violence against ICE. We see it every day. They're quick to write a fake story portraying ICE in a negative light, often omitting the real facts of these cases, and they hardly ever write about the vicious criminals that ICE is arresting every day to make our country safer. Now, I've got to say, this is The Democrat Party is the party of the first American Civil War. Will it be the last?
Well, we're going to find out.
Yeah.
But no, this is an issue that that DHS Secretary Kristi Noem has repeatedly raised frustration over, that we see this time and time again, that there's this emphasis, essentially this picking and choosing on the part of the leftist media, and they completely ignore the victims, the individuals whose lives have been lost and radically transformed because of illegal immigration. And in this case, who are the victims here? Illegal immigrants themselves at detention facilities were the victims. One gentleman we know lost his life, two others shot. And I think going back to that point on CNN, CNN was the one who first reported on this app. I looked it up today. It's still in the App Store. It's not the only one. There are multiple apps that track the location of ICE agents. And for a platform like various app platforms, it's their choice to carry these apps, but it might be wise for them to pull these down to start bringing accountability and not making this kind of access available to individuals with these kinds of very radical motives.
Now, Jason, given that this killer used that app or one of those apps and targeted an ICE facility and killed one person, he was hoping, of course, to murder as many ICE officers or agents as he could. And accidentally shot and killed an illegal alien that was in the custody of ICE and shot and wounded two more. Where do we, should we just get used to this? Is this the new normal in the United States?
No, I hope not. I hope that, we can stop as much violence as possible within the United States. There's no question about that. I would say that none of this stuff, even the shooting of Charlie Kirk, which was tragic, is as clear-cut as people are trying to make it out to seem. And one of the things about this particular shooter, his family says he wasn't political. He didn't have strong opinions on ICE one way or the other.
They're wrong.
It says anti-ICE on the bullet.
And again, we don't. It's written on a bullet. Yes.
Do you think he wrote it?
Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is online records. They've looked at his online activity. It's minimal interest in politics. He wasn't a registered Democrat, so it's really something that I think should wait until law enforcement actually releases. They haven't said what the motive is. They haven't even said what the motive is.
We don't know what the motive is. We don't possibly know.
They haven't said what the motive is in Charlie Kirk's shooting. So maybe before you blame, before you blame the media, perhaps blame the FBI. Maybe they're not working quick enough.
Yeah,
they're not working quick enough to say what a motive is. But instead, you expect the media to jump to conclusions that law enforcement has.
No, I do.
So I think that's really
I do
interesting.
think you expect the media to not share information about how you can kill your local ICE officer.
Well, but I think the fact that he doesn't have this long political or violent record in some ways speaks to the fact that we have seen this uptick in rhetoric, like from California Governor Gavin Newsom calling for action to be taken against ICE officers. We have to take that into account, that we've had months of rhetoric directed towards
and
ICE
some
agents.
Lawmakers themselves going to ICE facilities and committing crimes.
Right, and being violent
Do as
and
I
being
say,
arrested.
not as I do, I
Because
guess.
they made it chic, they made it fashionable.
Yeah.
And we couldn't possibly know what the motive. Who knows who wrote that on the bullets there?
When John
Tell the FBI, tell
and they
Pastor
said that he was
Cash
watching the
Apparently
video.
he doesn't know because he hasn't said
Chris,
it.
when John
So
Wilkes Booth
if it's so
shot
obvious,
Abraham
maybe
Lincoln
Cash Patel should
and
tell
said
you.
six Sanford Tyrannus, I don't know what his motive was.
It's impossible to know.
We'll never know.
We're waiting for the FBI to tell.
Yeah, maybe you need to talk to them.
Now, that's a good idea, except the guy blew his own brains out. Here's the picture. Fake news CNN isn't the only left-wing media outlet that's complicit in the increased violence and the exploding threats against ICE agents. Here's the MS-13 NBC so-called security and intelligence analyst Christopher O'Leary.
The militarization of ICE and other federal law enforcement, the wearing of the mask, the aggressive tactics. So the people who are starting to act out against this feel it's their only recourse. Again, this is predictable. We see this happening throughout our history and in other places as well. So, we can tone down the rhetoric, and that's the right message. But you also have to start looking at what policies you've implemented, what tactics you're using, because if you tone down the rhetoric, but you leave those other pieces in place, nothing's going to change.
So
Did he just say that it's the violence is justifiable because the policies that are in place where we've enforced the laws
Right.
that have been passed by Congress?
I think it's a little bit of victim blaming. He's basically saying ICE don't do your job, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, we can tone down the rhetoric.
Open
but
borders, wave the Venezuelan
Exactly.
gangs in and the drug traffickers
He's
and the
blaming-
child sex traffickers in.
It came across to me like he was blaming ICE for being effective. I mean, the numbers that we've seen and the dramatic decrease of crossings and the deportations that are happening under the Trump administration is all because of the brave actions of these ICE agents. In doing so, as you noted, 1,000% increase in assaults that they're facing.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like he's blaming their actions for what's happening, which is unfortunate. It is the rhetoric, and we're seeing
Enforcing
it
the
across.
law.
Yeah,
So stop enforcing the law and the Democrats will be okay.
that's their solution.
Open borders, Venezuelan gangs, MS-13, and we may never know what the motives are. Even with the Charlie Kirk assassination, we may never know.
We'll never know. I mean, it could only be as clear. I don't know what it will take for people who say we don't know the motives to understand what the motives are. Like, Jason, what more do we need to see from the guy who wrote, anti-ICE on the bullet? I don't think that anyone else would have had time to carve his bullets for him, to write anything on his bullets. And Virginia, I think, is so right to note that how quickly a lot of these people are getting radicalized. And, this guy seems to be, one of your stereotypical copycat killers, where he was clearly inspired by the murder of
Charlie
Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a quick radicalization. And